Hey there guys, what's up? It's Autobot Mike 18 here with another TV episode review. Man oh man guys, we have gone through another finale of The Walking Dead, another season finale. We are through another season. Yeah, I was definitely looking forward to the finale all day long because I was really excited to see how certain things were going to play out, especially with the way last week's episode ended. And I think a lot of you were also really hyping up tonight's finale as well. People are talking about it. There is an insane amount of buzz all over the place concerning the finale and the fact that we're not going to have any more episodes until October. Which honestly, the way things ended tonight, I'm okay with, even though there's like one thing that's just like up in the air. It's the last thing that happens. I'm like, oh my god, I just want to see what's going to happen with that. Okay, you know, you guys know what I mean if you've seen the episode. But anyway, as I get into my review, obviously guys, spoiler heavy. I'm going to spoil the hell out of this episode. A lot of interesting things happened tonight. A lot of things I can't wait to get into. So just beware and mindful that spoiler heavy. And yeah, this video is probably not going to be short. Because this, mind you, this finale was 90 minutes with commercials, which is basically like an hour-long episode, where the normal episodes are about 42 minutes long or something like that. Excuse me. So there's a lot of things I do have to discuss. So the video is going to be like 25, some 30-odd minutes. So just beware of that. But anyway, guys, let's get into it. Let's not even dilly-dally. Tonight's episode was Season 5, Episode 16, Conquer. And, boy, the way it started, that was just like, yes, that, my friends, is how you start off a season finale. That's all I have to say. I'm going to just, screw it, I'm going to say it. Morgan, he's back, okay? I predicted that. I predicted that this afternoon when I filmed my episode 15 review. I predicted Morgan would come back, and I was right. Morgan came back, but not at the greatest of times, though, unfortunately. And that's by far one of the best parts of this episode, and I can't wait to get into that. Now, guys, to break up tonight's episode is going to be rough, because especially towards like the last 30 minutes, because literally every storyline is intertwined with each other in a very interesting way. The editing tonight was just spot on, man. Some of the best editing done on this show. They heavily used parallel editing, like they do in every episode of honestly any TV show, but they use it in the end especially, and they cut each scene at just the perfect moment, just to keep reeling you in and keep building that tension. And you keep telling yourself, I know something bad is going to happen. I know something bad is going to happen. From a technical and, like, you know, filmmaking standpoint, tonight's episode was great. It's excellently directed by Greg Nicotero. It's one of the best edited episodes I've probably seen of the entire show, and that's saying a lot. I mean, the editing is usually very good on this show, but tonight it was just on fire, guys. It was just, wow, it was nonstop, out of control. It really effectively built the tension, okay? And I know you can argue that like too much was going on tonight, but I honestly didn't get lost too much. The only time where I started to get lost a little bit was when they were intercutting between the different storylines in the end with the group meeting, Rick and the zombie, Gabriel and Sasha, and Glenn and Nicholas. Because in the group meeting, everyone's speaking their piece about Rick. Rick's group is defending him, and I just couldn't like remember every single thing that we were saying. But anyway, I'm gonna try to go through this episode in chronological order. I would break it down by storyline, but I just don't feel that that's gonna work. I think I'll end up forgetting stuff, so I'm just gonna go in chronological order. So the episode starts off with my man Morgan back, and I don't know why some people were like, yeah, I don't think Morgan's going to come back tonight. My whole family who watches the show, I talked to them before we watched the finale, and I said, guys, I hope you realize Morgan's coming back tonight. And they're like, nah, Morgan's not coming back tonight. I'm like, guys, what are you talking about? They teased him twice in the season. Are they really not going to bring him back in this episode? Of course they were, and I was right. And I think most of you saw that coming. Most of you did, I hope. But yes, Morgan is on his own, and man, oh man, is he a changed man. And honestly, I gotta say, that's one thing I really, really loved about Morgan in this episode. I mean, and I know it's going to be tough, and some people aren't going to totally buy Morgan's state from the crazy person he was in Clear back in season 3, 2 seasons ago. And now he's sort of found peace almost. He's a lot more calm, and he looks at the brighter side of things, honestly. And when he gets the attention, or when 2 members of this group known as the Wolves, who are going to be major antagonists for Rick and the Alexandria group next season, can't wait to see how that's going to unfold. I'll get more into that later. But when Morgan crosses paths with them in the beginning of the episode, you can tell that the guy who's holding him at gunpoint wants to kill him and take him with them, and probably use him as bait as one of the wolves and carve the W on his head, you know, like they've been doing. It's probably what they want to do. And Morgan doesn't pull out his gun right away. He's just sitting there, and you could tell he's gone through some sort of metamorphosis. And I know people are going to be upset, and they're going to be like, well, we never saw Morgan go through that, so why should I care about him? We should care about Morgan because he's a badass. We've seen him one way in season 1, in the first episode, when he was defending his son and doing anything to keep his son alive, even though it was tough for him, difficult for him to shoot his own zombie wife. Then we see him in season 3, he's broken down because his son has died and he's basically lost everything. Now to see him in season 5, a completely changed man on the path of redemption and on the path to find Rick. As we later find out in the episode, he's carrying the map on him that he found in the church, and he is trying to track down Rick, probably because of this change he has gone through. He's become a different man. As Rick told him, there's got to be some hope for you in Clear. He said something along the lines of that. He was trying to get Morgan to come back with him to the prison, and Morgan was basically too far gone then. And he sort of, I guess he really took Rick's encounter with him, his second encounter with him, into heart and changed the way he is. And now I guess he sort of owes this change he's gone through to Rick, which is why he's relentlessly trying to find him, and he's so hopeful about it. And that honestly gave me hope. So Morgan badassedly fights off these wolf members with this bow staff, or this walking stick he found, and I was like, so when did Morgan learn how to do that? I don't know, but he's a freaking badass, and who doesn't love Morgan? I do. So that was the beginning. 7 minutes in, almost 8 minutes in, and I've only talked about the first scene, guys. Why is that a bad thing? It is. So yeah, so getting into Alexandria. Meanwhile, Aaron and Daryl are on their recruiter mission. They're actually following this guy wearing a red poncho, because that's what they do. They recruit people. Things are starting to heat up in Alexandria. Rick awakens in this room. Michonne is keeping watch over him. She'd been keeping watch over him overnight. And then Abraham, Glenn, and Carol come by to see him. And they're all talking, this group. And Rick, they obviously feel sort of bad for, they feel that the entire group feels that Rick is kind of screwed at this point. They tell him that Deanna's holding a meeting to talk about Rick and his actions. And they also reveal, or we find out that the gun rooms and the gun lockers are being held on watch, like they're being guarded with members of the group of the Alexandria community, because they obviously can't trust Rick. Because when Rick pulled out that gun last week, they're not supposed to have guns within the walls. I actually forgot about that when I did my review this afternoon. It totally slipped my mind. Rick wasn't supposed to have that gun, and he did. So that was one thing that upset Deanna, and that's why she's, that's one reason why she's holding the meeting. Not just because Rick lost it in last week's episode, but he has to, he pulled the gun out. So they're going to hold the meeting, and Rick is like, you know what, things aren't looking good for me. They're probably going to want to exile me. So he tells them, we may have to take Deanna, take everyone in charge who's at that meeting, and sort of hold them hostage and force them into letting us stay here and letting us take over. And Michonne isn't really a fan of it. Neither is Glenn, honestly. Because Michonne, from the beginning, from the mid-season premiere, when Michonne told Rick, we need a sanctuary here. We just can't keep getting on the move. Michonne is really feeling good about Alexandria, although they've run into problems since they've gotten there. Michonne is like that one person who's like, no, I believe in this place. And I like seeing that from Michonne, honestly. But it's also cool to see whether or not Rick is going to trust her, because he still hasn't told her about the truth behind him and the guns, and how him, Carol, and Daryl took guns out from the store, from the gun room. And he hasn't told Michonne. The only members of the group that know about Rick's plan to take over the place is Daryl and Carol, because he told them on the porch that night. So really, really interesting to the first half. I mean, tension was definitely building. Then eventually Rick gets released from that sort of like hospital room he was in, or that like lockdown place he was in, and he sees Deanna, and him and Deanna like exchange a look on the street, and they're like, I'm like, uh-oh, things are not gonna end well. In the meanwhile, Sasha goes and lays down in a pile of walkers in a pit because she's crazy. Yeah, probably crazy. Glenn notices Nicholas fleeing Alexandria, and he specifically told him in last week's episode to not do that because he would only endanger his own life. But yes, we see that, all that happening, and then I think also Father Gabriel goes out for a walk, and we're interested to see where he's going to go with that. I'll actually just finish Gabriel's storyline now. He goes out for a walk. He's wearing a white t-shirt and like regular casual clothes. We're like, what the hell is Gabriel up to? What's going on? He approaches a walker and wants it to eat him somewhere in the woods, and eventually backs out of it, and there's a rope tied to this walker's neck, takes the rope and strangles the walker, killing it, and decides he wants to live. But he still feels terrible. And there's a specific reason why, and it's been revealed throughout the season, but it was like kind of forgotten about in the last couple episodes. So when Gabriel reveals why he's feeling so terrible in this episode tonight, I was like, okay, he hasn't felt bad about that in several episodes. Why does he feel bad about it now all of a sudden? I don't know. That was just one way. I'll fully conclude Gabriel's storyline towards the end, because there's a great moment of parallel editing that severely builds, that really builds tension very well, and I can't wait to get into it. There's a lot to discuss with it. But yeah, that is that's for the most part the first half of the episode. Carol also goes over to Pete, the house that Pete is staying at. They separated, Pete and Jesse, and gives him a casserole, basically threatens him to go over and check on Tara, because he's like the medical guy in charge of I almost said Woodbury, in charge of Alexandria. And she holds him up at knife point. And at this point, Carol is so badass. My dad, who watched the finale with me and my brother tonight, was like, I don't know, Carol might get it tonight. I'm like, no way is she getting it anytime soon. They're going to keep Carol around for a very long time. I would honestly not be surprised if when they end this show, whenever they decide to, Carol is one of the last ones standing. I will not be surprised in the least. Carol is here to stay, honestly. Judging by everything she's done and how badass she's become as a character on the show, she ain't going anywhere. So getting back to Daryl and Aaron, they're still on their recruiter mission, and they go to this like place with a fence. They go through the fence and spot these like delivery trucks. And, Aaron takes off a license plate because he has that license plate collection or whatever. And Daryl opens one of the trucks, and it sets off a booby trap, which opens the doors of the food delivery trucks, releasing a horde of zombies. And in a pretty awesome scene until the end of it, Daryl and Aaron have to flee these zombies. This is single-handedly one of the best zombie kills of the entire show, and it belonged to Daryl. Daryl takes a chain and flicks it and slashes 3 zombies' head off, just like that. It happened so quickly. My mouth dropped as soon as I saw that. I was like, whoa, that's insane. So Daryl and Aaron make it to this car, and Aaron gets a pretty damn good kill. He squashes a zombie's head using a car door. And so they're in this car. They are swarmed with walkers who are just overrunning the car, and they are like, there's no way we're going to get out of this. So at some point later on in the episode, Daryl's like, you know what? I'm just going to draw them off. You run off and save yourself. I'm just going to go on this like suicide run. And Aaron's like, no, it's my fault. We kept going. We pushed ourselves. We went this far. We stopped to get food. It's my fault. We're going to go together. We're going to try to make our way out of this together. So Daryl and Aaron agree to go out together just as they get their weapons ready. Something kills a couple zombies from outside of the car. Guess who it is? That's right. It's frickin' Morgan Jones. Morgan comes and saves the day, helps save Norman, Daryl, and Aaron. And they kill a couple walkers that were swarming the car. They get past the fence, lock the fence up, and Daryl and Aaron are extremely grateful. And I love how Daryl has been so close to Rick throughout the entire show, and Morgan is very close with Rick, and the two of these characters meet, and they don't know each other by face because Daryl has never seen Morgan, and Morgan has never seen Daryl. And Aaron and Daryl at this moment are just, they're not even thinking about who Morgan really is. Of course, Daryl tells, or Aaron tells Morgan, we have a community with electricity and everything. We'd love it for you to come with us. And Morgan is just, he's just still such at peace, even though he's such a badass zombie killer. I guess he really went to a deep, dark place when he lost it and went crazy because of what happened to Dwayne and his wife and everything. And he's sort of moved on. He's collected weapons and ammo. He's got his own sort of supply bag on his shoulders. And now he's headed out. And he was just headed out, and until he found the map with Rick's name on it, he didn't even think about Rick. But now he is thinking about Rick and wants to find Rick because of the effect that Rick had on him. Honestly, in Clear. And Morgan tells him, he's got like the biggest smile on his face. He's like, I'm looking for someone. And he hands Daryl the map, and Daryl sees the writing, sorry I was an asshole, the new world's gonna need Rick Grimes. And he looks up at Morgan. At that point I'm like, you know what, I'm sure Rick has told Daryl of Morgan before and how close they were. Obviously maybe he told Daryl about what happened after Clear. Maybe a day after, when they got back to the prison after the events of Clear. So I'm assuming Daryl knew about Morgan. So as soon as he saw the map, he realized it was Morgan. He probably took a second look at Morgan, saw the description. Maybe Rick described what Morgan looked like. And I think at that point, we were like, yep, things are going well. My man Morgan is back. That's all I wanted. But getting back into other storylines that are going on throughout the episode. Glenn follows Nicholas into the woods and gets shot in the shoulder by Nicholas and runs off, leaving a blood trail. And in a very harrowing scene, Glenn catches up to Nicholas. The two of them engage in a fist fight, and a couple of walkers swarm over them. Nicholas flees, and Glenn is left on the ground holding a walker. It's close to biting him. And then three other walkers come by, and they're diving down towards Glenn, and we cut to black, and we're like, oh, for a little while, I thought to myself, did Glenn really bite the dust? If he did, that's going to set Rick off when Nicholas comes back to camp, and everyone finds out Glenn didn't make it, and then that's not going to go well. Rick is going to want to then kill Nicholas. So for a good moment, I said to myself, Glenn's probably dead. Then I said to myself, there's no way Glenn's dead. Are they really going to show Glenn dying off screen? There's no way. Whenever Glenn does die, he's going to die on screen. They're not going to have a swarm of zombies kill him, and we're not even going to see it happen. We are going to see it happen, whatever does happen to Glenn. If it's the same death from the comics, which I actually know what it is, even though I haven't gotten that far yet, then so be it. That's what we're going to see on the show or whatever. I mean, we're not going to see Glenn. We're not going to not see Glenn get killed whenever he does get killed. That's what I'm trying to say. So that was another really interesting moment. I didn't see it coming. And then I'll get more into it a little bit later on, because that storyline isn't done yet, actually. But yeah. That for the majority. I'm trying to think back. Yeah, that's basically everything that happens within the first two halves of tonight's episode. Rick also comes back to the house that he lives in, talks to Carl. Carl, who's in this episode a little bit, and tells them we may have to take care of some of these people. I don't know. You know, apologizes to Carl for everything, you know, the way he's acted and all that. So yeah, there's also another scene where where Abraham goes to visit Tara, who's in this house, and she's making it. In the end of the episode, I'll just say it now. Tara is, she opens her eyes, it's at night, and Rosita's with her, and Tara's alright. So Tara's going to live into the next season. But Eugene goes to Abraham goes to visit, and at first he wants to turn. This is the funny scene in the episode, by the way. He turns out because he sees Eugene there, and you know Abraham's not really talking with Eugene, all because Eugene made that big lie about DC. And Abraham and Rosita's like, "No, come on, Abraham, just stay." Eugene's sleeping. Eugene was asleep in the scene, and Abraham sits down. And there's like a moment of silence, and then Rosita pushes something off a table. It wakes Eugene up, but we don't cut to Eugene waking up. We have the shot on Abraham looking angry at Rosita for knocking something off the table to wake up Eugene, and then we cut to Eugene looking at looking at Abraham with like that look on his face, like this, that blank, like, I don't like you look on his face. That's just the look he has on his face. I love that moment so much. Basically, the importance of the scene was the two of them apologize with each other. Okay. And then it's getting closer and closer towards the meeting. Rick and Michonne have a little bit of a talk with each other. Tells Michonne the truth that he had planned originally to take over Alexandria if need be, which is why they stole the guns. And he tells Michonne that what he told Daryl and Carol, we may just have to take this place over. And Michonne is like, there has to be a way we can do it without doing that. You know, there's got to be a way we can talk some sense into these people. It's one of the last things she wants to do is start anything bad to ruin the sense of community that she is now a part of, the thing that she has been craving. You can tell she's really serious about that and really wants this place to work. Okay? And I was like, yeah, I definitely support that. And I like how Michonne sees everything. Rick sees things one way. He's like, you know what? If we got to take out these Alexandria people, we got it. We got to do anything to survive. Michonne is like, I need to do anything to survive. Yes, but we also need to be smart about this. So both are right in a sense. The Alexandria community, they're weak, and we know that they're weak, and then they're not going to survive that long. And Rick is right in that sense. But Michonne is also right in that sense. Is it the right time to really take them out? You know, if they do, that might not be good. I mean, it's always better to have more people, even if the Alexandria residents aren't totally intelligent when it comes to surviving on their own. And finally, before I get into the last half of the episode where things get really tense and they go really heavy with the parallel editing, Rick, at some point earlier on in the episode, had gone over to see Jesse, and we see a shot of Pete looking at the two of them from the house he's staying in. So you know Pete's not going to be happy about that. And Carol had already threatened him, so he's not happy right off the bat. So then we get to Rick going to the meeting. It's getting towards night. He looks out his window as he's getting ready for the meeting and sees a gate open. Earlier in the episode, after Gabriel had killed that walker in the woods, he comes back and goes to the gatekeeper, and the gatekeeper's getting ready to go to the meeting and tells Gabriel to shut the gate behind him. Gabriel, in this trance he's in, closes the gate but doesn't close it properly as it slides open a bit and hadn't been closed fully. And Gabriel hadn't watched that because of the state he's in and how bad he feels, and I'll get into that. So Rick realized there's a breach and there's walkers in Alexandria. So instead of going to the meeting, he rushes over to look around and find these walkers and take care of them because they're going to pose a threat. And obviously he's not happy about whoever left the gate open. So that Rick trying to find the walkers in Alexandria is intercut with various scenes going on in a method known as parallel editing. If you've taken any cinema studies course or anything like that, you'll know what parallel editing is. It's when multiple actions happen at the same time. They're intercut amongst each other, and it's used to build tension. When you cut from one storyline to cut to another storyline, and then you cut to another, or the first one, I mean, it helps build the tension because they end each shot or each scene on it like a cliffhanger, like the end of each of these scenes in this like sort of montage-ish parallel editing sequence towards the end of the episode. They end each shot sort of unexpectedly, and you're like, wait, what's going to happen next? So I love how they did that tonight, and they did it very well. But all the scenes that are intercut is Rick going after the walkers in Alexandria. There is Sasha going to see Gabriel in the church. There's the group the entire Alexandria group at the meeting discussing Rick's fate. And, of course, we get some shots of the wolves. 2 of the wolf members are at that location that Daryl and Aaron were at, and they had gotten swarmed by, and the one Morgan saved them at. And they activate their booby traps and get the horde of walkers to go back into the truck. So we're like, oh crap, these wolf guys, bad news. They're bad news. And we also get intercutting with Glenn and Nicholas. Because it turns out Glenn survived all those walkers that almost tried to eat him in the forest. He charges Nicholas at some point towards the end. Nicholas is on his way back into Alexandria, and Glenn's like, you didn't kill me. So the 2 of them start brawling, and it's intercut so damn well. Rick is on the ground, choking a zombie, using his hands. The blood is falling on him and splattering on him. What's his name? Glenn is beating the crap out of Nicholas, points a gun in his head. Sasha is struggling with Gabriel in the church because of the troubled conflict they've had. Sasha and Gabriel never trust each other since they met back in early season 5. So they let all that out in this one moment as Sasha holds up the rifle at Gabriel's head and announces that he feels terrible because of all the people he let die earlier on when we first met. In the mid-season finale, it was revealed, or earlier on in season 5, it was revealed he had let a lot of people die on his watch by not letting them into the church. He kept a lot of them out, and he feels the guilt has just hit him at this point. And honestly, that could be the thing that made him turn in Rick's group to Deanna 2 episodes ago when he told Deanna that he couldn't trust Rick's group. That could have been the demons in his head screwing with his mind, saying, making him feel bad about what he'd done in the past. So that is all intercut so incredibly well as Rick's group members start to defend him at the Alexandria meeting. They tell them, listen, what Rick said, Rick was a little out of line the other day, but he's right. He knows how to survive, and we need to listen to him in order to keep this community going. And in order for it to thrive, we need Rick Grimes. They're all defending him, trying to keep Rick's honor. And then Deanna gets up to speak. And Rick comes in and throws a walker on the ground, the walker that he choked out, and says, this is what happened because one of the gates was left open. And then he goes into another great speech. He's got blood all over his face again, and goes into the fact that it's not just the dead that are out there. The living can get into this place too, just like this walker did. And unless they do something about it, unless they step up, listen to Rick, give Rick more authority, listen to him, they are not going to survive. And Rick makes it very crystal clear to them once he brings that walker in. And I think they are honestly swayed by Rick's argument. And I think that honestly really freaking worked. And just as everything seems like peaches and cream, we are intercut still with Glenn deciding not to kill Nicholas, puts the gun down. Sasha is confronted by Maggie, who came from the meeting to look for the rest of the group because they weren't at the meeting. She catches Sasha almost killing Gabriel and talks her out of it, and we see a shot of Gabriel, Maggie, and Sasha praying, Glenn and Nicholas limping and walking back to Alexandria, Tara getting better in the hospital, or in the room, in the house that she's in, and she's under care by Rosita, and all of that is going on, and we think that they're going to end it there, and I'm like, you know what? I really wanted something. I'm like, there's no way they're just going to end it here, like the whole season. I doubt it. Of course I was wrong. Pete barges into the meeting and is carrying Michonne's sword. He's pissed at Rick. Obviously, him seeing Jesse and Rick talking to each other earlier that day set him off, and he's not too happy about it. So he takes Michonne's sword, and Deanna's husband, Reg, tries desperately to keep him back. and Pete accidentally slits Reg's throat open. You see the blood pouring out of his throat. He falls down and dies. The whole entire community that is in the meeting freaks out, and they're like, oh my god, look at what Pete just did. Abraham tackles Pete to keep him down. Rick has his hand on a gun that Carol had given him earlier in the episode and is about to do something, but I think Carol holds him off and tells him, no, listen, not here, don't do this now. He just killed Reg, but what the hell are we going to do? Deanna is in tears and an absolute mess, holding her dead husband, and then she, as soon as he dies, by far one of the best moments of the episode, she looks from him to Rick and says 2 words, do it. Gives Rick the okay, pulls out the gun, and fires right into Pete's head and kills Pete. Frickin' awesome. And just when I thought they were going to cut to black, right there, on Rick firing at Pete and killing him on the ground, we hear a voice say Rick. Rick looks up, and we see Daryl, Aaron, and Morgan looking at Rick from the entrance of the courtyard where they're holding the meeting. And Morgan, we have a medium shot on Morgan looking at Rick, looking very surprised, but also possibly horrified. And then we cut to Rick looking at Morgan, just shocked. And then it cuts to black. What a perfect way to... The end was literally perfect. And I'll tell you why I loved it so much. Some of you may not be fans of it. I freaking love it. And the reason is because Morgan had come back. He had changed himself as a character I always loved. He had made this journey, fought this journey just to get to Rick and wherever Rick was in D.C. He found Daryl and Aaron accidentally, saved their lives. They brought him to Alexandria, and he had changed. And I'm pretty sure he was going to reunite with Rick to thank him. And now he sees Rick, blood all over his face, firing into a guy's head. And this is going to obviously have an immense effect on Morgan's metamorphosis. Is Morgan even going to be the same person anymore? Is he going to change entirely? Is this seeing Rick like this just going to mess him up again and make him go down a bad path? I mean, I loved how in this episode, Glenn or Nicholas didn't die. They both made it out and made peace. Gabriel or Sasha didn't die. They both made it out and made peace. And we think that Rick and the rest of the Alexandria group in the meeting scene are going to make it out, but obviously Reg and Pete are both dead for important reasons. But, I mean, I was like, you know what? It's amazing how Rick's group, who Rick was very adamant about wanting to kill anyone who was weak, now tells the entire town the truth and sticks up for them. Rick's group also helped prove themselves that they're better than what Gabriel said they were. Sasha ends up not killing Gabriel. Glenn does not kill Nicholas when he has the chance, instead decides to help him. I mean, it only proves Gabriel's wrong, and I love that because it ties into the overlying message of what's really going on in the show, that these people are still humans, and yes, they have to do some messed up shit to survive in this world, but ultimately there are times when they are not going to let go of their humanity, and they did not let go of their humanity tonight. Now, we may see them have to do that sometime in Season 6 when the wolves show up, and that's fine, because they're the wolves, and they're bad, and we see a shot of the wolves looking through a set of photographs that Aaron had took. We see pictures of Rick and Carl, and we see pictures of the Alexandria safe zone. So that is not good. They are going to be hot on their heels. That's our new antagonist for Season 6. And I love where they're going to go with that. I really, really do. But I just loved, in a way, even though I wanted to see more blood being shed, and I wanted to see maybe more characters even dying. It would have been awesome to see that, of course. Pete and Reg dying was satisfying. The very, very ending with Morgan and Rick reuniting like that is one of the most satisfying endings to an episode I've seen in a very long time. I literally screamed at my TV in disappointment. I was like, no! No, Morgan! He's done! His humanity's done! He had hope! He had everything! He believed in Rick, and seeing Rick like that is just going to make him snap. And I was just so upset for Morgan, because now this is going to change everything. That moment of reuniting the two of them is done. That's not how Morgan pictured it. Morgan sees Rick in a different way now. Rick has sort of become Morgan, almost. Morgan has sort of become Rick when Rick met him in Clear. Before Rick lost, you know, the prison and everything, and Herschel and all them. You know? That ending was just perfect. And of course we have a post-credit scene. Michonne deciding, instead of putting her katana, after she cleans it off, instead of putting it on her mount, she puts it around her body and is going to keep it on her. And then we see a shot of a wolf, of the wolves. They wrote in soap or spray paint on this like cinder block wall, "Wolves are near," or something like that. So we know that they're going to mean trouble for this group. But I mean, even though I wanted to see more bloodshed tonight, and I wanted to see just like an all-out conflict break out at the meeting between the Alexandria group and Rick's group at night in the final moments, I really wanted to see that happen. Although we didn't get that, I was still pleased with the choice the writers made to show that this group still has their humanity left, of what little left they have in it. There are moments where they aren't going to just full-out kill people, you know? And it also showed Deanna breaking, and I loved how Deanna broke at that moment. That is going to show her as a flawed leader. I know she was angry in the heat of the moment, told Rick to kill Pete because Pete just killed her own husband by accident, but he still did it. And I just love that moment. It's going to leave so many questions up in the air. What's going to happen to Deanna? Is she going to throw in the towel? Or is the whole town going to want her to throw in the towel? This episode raises so many questions towards the end. What's going to happen with this character? What's going to happen with Morgan and Rick's relationship? I loved everything it sets up. I love everything it concluded on. It was a very, very, very promising and very satisfying season finale to a very decent season, in my opinion. Season 5 was a big improvement over Season 4. In my opinion, although this finale is way better than the Season 3 finale, I don't think Season 3 is worse. I don't think Season 5 is better than 3 as a whole. I still prefer Season 3, even though Season 5 was very, very good, had a very interesting amount of episodes, had very strong, solid episodes. I really like where things went tonight, guys. I'm going to go high with my rating. I'm going to go 9.5 out of 10. One of the best episodes of the season. Great way to end the season overall. And I honestly can't wait to see what they're going to do next with these characters, with the wolves. What is going to become of Alexandria? What's going to become of Deanna? Rick and Morgan's relationship. So many unanswered questions. Sasha and Gabriel. Glenn and Nicholas. How are they going to get along? What are the wolves going to do? What do they mean for this group? Wow, a lot to take in, guys. A lot happened tonight. What did you guys think of tonight's episode? Did you think it was as awesome as you wanted it to be? Was it disappointing? My only flaws with tonight's episode, honestly, was the fact that two characters escaped death due to the script and the way that the episode was edited. In the scene where Daryl and Aaron are being swarmed, we cut to Daryl running through a horde of zombies as he gets to a car. Then we cut to a shot of his feet underneath the car, and we see a bunch of zombies. They're not even moving towards him. Then we cut to Daryl going right into the car from that. And I was like, why didn't they show it? Why did they cut to that shot under the car? What was the significance of that shot? There wasn't. They just did that so they didn't have to show Daryl making it through that situation, because nobody would really make it through that situation. Daryl would have died. Same thing with Glenn. When he's holding off the walkers, it cuts to black. We don't see Glenn until later on in the episode when he charges and attacks Nicholas. Glenn was shot in the shoulder. I don't even think he had weapons on him. How did he survive that? Those are the only moments that took me out of the episode, guys. Only moments that made me feel sad and made me say to myself, why did they have to do it like that? Why are they showing these characters making it out alive when they clearly haven't? They would have died, okay? My only flaw. Other than that, 9.5 out of 10 or a solid grade of an A. Really, really good episode tonight, guys. Really good. What did you guys think of it? Let me know down below in the comments. Leave me some early predictions for Season 6. What do you think is going to happen, guys? Some pretty interesting things look like they're going to happen. I can't wait to see what's going to happen next. It's going to be a tough wait, even though I like how things concluded. I was overall very, very satisfied. And Morgan and Rick, baby, they're back. Can't wait to see what's going to happen with that. Anyway, guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.